The studio lights of the View gleamed brightly as the audience settled into their seats, buzzing with anticipation for what promised to be a legendary episode. Whoopi Goldberg, ever the poised moderator, welcomed the iconic Jack Nicholson with a warm smile, her voice echoing through the room like a gentle wave. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are thrilled to have with us today the one, the only, Jack Nicholson, Hollywood's eternal rebel, star of classics like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and The Shining." "Jack, it's an honor." The crowd erupted in applause, whistles piercing the air as Jack, dressed in his signature aviator shades and a tailored blazer that hugged his still imposing frame, shuffled onto the stage with that trademark grin, a mix of mischief and menace. He waved lazily, sinking into the plush guest chair with a sigh that spoke volumes of his reluctance to be there. Joy Behar, sharp-tongued and unapologetic, leaned forward immediately, her eyes sparkling with the thrill of the hunt. "Jack, darling, it's been ages since we've seen you out and about. What's got you hiding in that Malibu mansion, afraid the world forgot about you?" The audience chuckled nervously, but Jack's smile tightened just a fraction, his fingers drumming on the armrest like a prelude to a storm. Whoopi steered the conversation smoothly, asking about his latest reflections on cinema, and Jack obliged with anecdotes from the set of Easy Rider, his voice gravelly and laced with that dry wit that made generations fall in love. Sunny Hostin chimed in with questions about his environmental activism, drawing nods from the panel, but Joy was already circling, her pen tapping impatiently. As the segment progressed, the talk turned to modern Hollywood, the remakes and reboots that Jack had famously derided in past interviews. "It's all flash, no substance," he muttered, sipping his water, and the hosts nodded in agreement. But Joy, never one to let a moment pass unchallenged, pivoted sharply. "Oh, come on, Jack, you're one to talk it. Didn't you star in those Batman movies that were basically comic book cash grabs?" The room hushed. Jack's glass paused midway to his lips, his eyes narrowing behind the shades. What started as a light jab was about to ignite into something far more volatile, the air thickening with unspoken tensions from decades of industry grudges and personal barbs. Whoopi tried to laugh it off, but Jack's posture shifted, his shoulders squaring as if preparing for battle. The audience leaned in, sensing the shift, while the cameras zoomed tighter, capturing every flicker of emotion on his weathered face. Joy pressed on, oblivious or perhaps eager, recounting a fabricated tale of Jack's diva behavior on set, embellishing with details that twisted old rumors into fresh wounds. "I mean, honey, you threw a fit over lighting once, right? Screamed at the crew like you were auditioning for The Departed all over again." Jack's laugh was low, almost a growl, and he removed his sunglasses slowly, revealing eyes that burned with the intensity of a man who'd stared down demons on screen and off. "Joy, you got a mouth on you like a chainsaw in a library, loud and destructive, but zero precision." The panel gasped softly, but the audience tittered, caught between shock and delight. This was no scripted banter, this was raw, unfiltered Nicholson, the man who'd built a career on defying expectations. As the commercial break loomed, the clash simmered, promising an eruption that would echo far beyond the studio walls. Back from the break, the energy in the studio had transformed into a palpable electricity, the kind that precedes a thunderstorm. Whoopi, sensing the undercurrent, attempted to redirect with a softball about Jack's influence on younger actors, praising his mentorship of folks like Leonardo DiCaprio. Jack nodded graciously, his charm resurfacing like a well-rehearsed act, sharing a story of late-night poker games with up-and-comers, his voice warming the room. "These kids today, they've got talent, but they need to learn that acting's not about filters, it's about bleeding on the page." Sarah Haynes beamed, jotting notes, while Alyssa Farah Griffin added her 2 cents on resilience in the spotlight. But Joy, undeterred, her lips pursed in that signature smirk, waited for her opening like a predator in the grass. As talk veered to gender dynamics in film, timely, given the Me Too reckonings, Joy seized it. "Jack, you've played some real charmers, but let's be real, those characters, misogynists in sheep's clothing. R.P. McMurphy, a walking HR violation." The audience murmured, divided between agreement and defense of the art. Jack's jaw clenched, his fingers interlacing tightly as he leaned forward, the guest chair creaking under his weight. Misogynist, that's rich coming from a woman who's built a career on hot takes that scorch the earth. You think art's a therapy session? It's a mirror. Joy reflects the ugly in all of us, including you and your sanctimonious jabs. The words landed like punches, the panel freezing in stunned silence. Whoopi interjected swiftly, "Whoa, let's keep it civil, folks, we're all friends here." But the damage was done. The audience's applause was mixed, some cheering Jack's candor, others whispering in disapproval. Joy's face flushed, her eyes widening in feigned offense. "Excuse me? I'm calling out the tropes you profited from, Jack. Hollywood's changed a good riddance to the old boys club." Jack threw his head back in a bark of laughter that echoed off the rafters, but there was no mirth in it, only the sharp edge of a blade being unsheathed. "Changed? It's the same game. Different jerseys. You sit here judging from your perch, but you've never risked a damn thing on screen." "Me? I poured my soul into roles that scared me straight to face the madness, the lust, the power. You peddle opinions like cheap wine." The cameras caught every nuance, the way Joy's hands trembled slightly as she gripped the table, the subtle shift in Whoopi's body language as she prepared to intervene. Sonny tried to pivot to lighter fare, asking about Jack's golf game, but the rift had widened, the conversation fracturing like glass under pressure. Offstage, producers whispered frantically into earpieces, Wayne Cuts versus the viral gold this was becoming. Jack's voice rose incrementally, each sentence building like a crescendo in one of his monologues, drawing the audience deeper into the fray. "You wanna talk clashes, Joy? I've had them with directors, critics, even the bottle, but this is amateur hour, poking a bear and acting surprised when it roars." The room held its breath, the brake lights flashing urgently, but no one moved, transfixed by the unfolding drama that blurred the lines between entertainment and explosion. The tension coiled tighter as the show barreled toward its midpoint, the hosts exchanging glances that screamed for a lifeline. Jack, now fully engaged, his aviators discarded on the table like discarded armor, fixed Joy with a stare that could curdle milk. "Let's cut the crap," he declared, his Boston accent thickening with emotion. "You invite me here to reminisce, then sling mud like it's confetti. What's the angle, Joy?" Ratings bump from a senior smackdown. The audience oowed, a wave of empathy rippling through the crowd. Many there for Jack, the living legend, not the co-host's provocations. Joy, recovering her composure with a toss of her hair, fired back without missing a beat. "Angle? Honey, truth has no agenda. Your rare glamorized bad boys now were holding mirrors up. Deal with it." Whoopi, the ultimate referee, clapped her hands lightly. "All right, deep breath," said Jack. "Tell us about that Oscar speech, the one that had everyone in tears." It was a masterstroke, pulling Jack into safer waters, and he obliged, recounting the night of his third win with vivid detail, the roar of the crowd, the weight of the statuette, the fleeting terror of acceptance. Laughter returned, tentative at first, as he mimicked his younger self's awkward bow. Alyssa leaned in, sharing her own brush with fame's absurdity, forging a momentary alliance. But Joy simmered, her questions laced with barbs disguised as curiosity. "Speaking of tears, Jack, rumors say you're writing memoirs to spill on the wild parties. Did Angelica really dump you over that waitress?" It was a low blow, dredging up Houston-era scandals with the glee of a tabloid scribe. Jack's face darkened, veins pulsing at his temples. The man who'd embodied cool detachment for decades felt the facade crack. "Private life's off limits, Joy. You wanna dissect hearts? Start with your own. How many marriages before you found the script?" Gasps echoed. Sarah covered her mouth, eyes wide. The audience, now fully partisan, cheered Jack's retort, a chant of "Jack, Jack," starting faintly in the back rows. Producers signaled wildly from the control booth, but the die was cast. The show had veered into uncharted territory, where civility bowed to spectacle. Joy stood her ground, voice rising. "This is public domain. Jack, your life's a movie we all paid for. Don't play coy now." He rose halfway from his seat, pointing a finger that trembled not with age but fury. "Paid for? You profit off echoes, twisting truths into sound bites. I've earned my scars. You've just collected headlines." Whoopi called for calm, her authority reasserting as stagehands hovered nearby, but the verbal joust continued. words flying like sparks from flint. Sonny attempted humor, quipping about needing popcorn, eliciting scattered laughs, yet the core conflict pulsed on. Jack's eruption brewed, a volcano on the verge, his next words promising to reshape the episode into legend. Off-mic whispers from the panel hinted at alliances forming, a Whoopi siding with decorum, Joy with unyielding scrutiny, while the viewers at home, glued to screens, tweeted furiously, the #Jack vs. Joy trending within minutes. The studio, once a haven of gab and giggles, now thrummed with the raw pulse of confrontation, every eye locked on the man whose silence had been golden, but whose voice, once unleashed, shook foundations. Midway through the hour, the atmosphere hung heavy, like smoke after a gunshot, as Jack reclaimed his seat with deliberate slowness, his chest rising and falling in measured breaths. The audience, sensing the precipice, quieted to a hush, their applause for the break more relief than enthusiasm. Whoopi, channeling her Oscar-winning gravitas, pivoted to legacy, asking Jack about the films he'd greenlight if he were producing today. Something raw, Whoopi, stories that gut punch, not tickle, he replied, his tone softening momentarily, gratitude flickering in his eyes for the save. He waxed poetic on Scorsese's untamed vision, drawing parallels to his own collaborations, and the panel relaxed, nodding along as he painted pictures of celluloid dreams. Alyssa shared a fan story from her conservative circles, admiring Jack's unapologetic masculinity, which elicited a wry smile from him. Kid, masculinity ain't a monolith, it's a storm you ride, not a suit you wear. Joy, however, chafed at the détente, her foot tapping audibly under the table, as discussion looped back to activism and Jack's long-standing support for native rights via his Lakota heritage. She interjected with surgical precision, "Noble, Jack, but let's address the elephant. Your silence during the 80s AIDS crisis, partying while friends perish, a convenient, no? It was dynamite, lobbed with the precision of a prosecutor, rooted in half-truths amplified by hindsight." The room inhaled sharply. Even Whoopi faltered, her eyebrows arching. Jack's hands balled into fists, knuckles widening, as memories flooded, a night of grief masked by excess, the industry's shameful hush. Silence. I buried friends, Joy fought in shadows while you were cracking wise on daytime TV. Don't lecture me on convenience, your outrage is selective as hell. The audience exploded, half in uproar, half in ovation, the divide stark under the hot lights. Joy recoiled, but pressed. Shadows? That's code for complicity. Own it. Jack surged to his feet, chair scraping like thunder, his voice booming across the set. Own it. I've owned every demon, every triumph. You own a microphone and a grudge. This ain't dialogue, it's ambush. Chaos rippled, stagehands advanced, Whoopi rising with hands outstretched. Jack, please sit, let's talk this through. But he paced now, gesturing wildly, shades forgotten, face a map of fury etched by decades. You wanna erupt? Here it is. Hollywood's a circus, and you're the ringmaster with a whip for has-beens. I built empires, you commentate ruins. Tweets surged, clips already viral, the web alight with #Nicholson Erupts. Sonny whispered to Sarah, eyes darting, while Alyssa nodded subtly in support. Joy, voice cracking for the first time, shot back, "Husband, you're the relic clinging to glory." The word relic hung, a gauntlet thrown, and Jack halted, breath ragged, the eruption cresting. Producers cut to hazy graphics, but the feed held, capturing the raw humanity of the legend unmasked, the host humbled. In that suspended moment, the show transcended talk. It became theater, primal and unforgiving, with Jack at its furious heart. The eruption hit its zenith as Jack, undaunted by the encroaching crew, turned to the camera directly, addressing the millions beyond the studio veil. Folks at home, this is what passes for discourse now, a gotcha games dressed as journalism. Joy, you got fire, I'll give you that, but it's wildfire, burns bright, leaves ash. The audience, galvanized, rose in waves, their cheers a thunderous endorsement, drowning the producer's urgent pleas. Whoopi, voice steady amid the storm, implored, Jack, we love you, don't let this define the day. But her words were lost in the din. Joy, cheeks aflame, stood too, microphone clutched like a shield. Ash, better than your fossilized ego, Jack, step into the light, apologize for the error you epitomized. It was her boldest thrust yet, demanding contrition from a man who'd never bent. Jack whirled, eyes blazing with the ferocity of his Joker, voice dropping to a venomous whisper that amplified through the speakers. Apologize? For birthing art that outlives us all? You apologize for weaponizing pain, for turning pain into punchlines. The panel fragmented, Sunny teared up, Sarah fanned herself, Alyssa clapped slowly in quiet rebellion. Offstage, security loomed, but Whoopi waved them back, her nod to Jack a silent pact of respect. He continued, pacing the length of the set, words tumbling like an avalanche. I've laughed with devils, cried with angels, see your barbs, mosquito bites. But hear this, the clash ain't personal, it's generational. You fight phantoms, I slew dragons. The crowd chanted his name, a rhythmic pulse that shook the foundations, phones aloft capturing the melee. Joy, cornered yet defiant, hurled one last salvo. Dragons? You mean enable Ursa own your part in the mess? Jack paused, inches from her, the space between them electric, then stepped back, exhaling like a bellows. Part? I was the mess, Joy of the glorious, flawed human, and I'd do it again. Shades and all, laughter broke through, cathartic and shared, as he retrieved his glasses, slipping them on with theatrical flair. The producers, seizing the lull, signaled the band for a swell of music, Whoopi seizing the reins. What a moment, raw, real, unforgettable. Jack, you're a force. Hugs were exchanged tentatively, Joy's stiff but genuine, the air clearing like post-rain sky. As the segment wound down, Jack waved to the adoring throng, his grin returning, tempered by wisdom. Backstage whispers promised edits, but the unfiltered truth had escaped. Bound for eternity online, The View, forever altered, had hosted not just a guest, but a reckoning, a clash that humanized the icon, humbled the host, and reminded all of entertainment's perilous edge. In the quiet aftermath, as lights dimmed, Jack murmured to Whoopi, worth the drive, sealing the legend with a wink. As the credits rolled, the studio exhaled collectively, the audience filing out with stories already forming on their lips, phones buzzing with shared clips that would fuel debates for days. Whoopi closed with grace, thanking Jack for his candor, her smile masking the adrenaline crash. You've given us gold today, and unscripted, unbreakable. Jack, settled once more, raised his water glass in toast, the tension ebbing into mutual respect, a hard-won truce. Joy, composing herself off mic, offered a nod across the table. You're tougher than you look, Nicholson, and he chuckled, the sound rich and reconciling. And you're sharper than most, Behar. Keep swinging. Laughter rippled anew, the panel reconvening in whispers of what-ifs and viral metrics, while Sunny reflected aloud on vulnerability's power. Alyssa texted furiously, allies in the wings, as Sarah packed notes dotted with exclamation points. Outside, paparazzi swarmed, but Jack slipped away quietly, his limo idling like a faithful steed. The episode aired unedited, a bold choice by ABC, rocketing to top trends, dissected on every podcast from Joe Rogan to late-night monologues. Kimmel quipped, Jack erupted. Nah, he just preheated a Joy as the oven. Memes proliferated, Nicholson's glare photoshopped onto Mount Rushmore, Joy's smirk captioned when you poke the bat. Critics praised the authenticity, hailing it as daytime TV's finest hour, a masterclass in unfiltered fame. Jack, back in Malibu, watched snippets over scotch, grinning at the chaos he'd sown, a proof that retirement was but a rumor. Joy, in her Brooklyn brownstone, blogged fiercely, defending her digs while admitting the sparks thrill. Whoopi, ever the bridge, mediated post-show calls, ensuring bridges unburned. The clash echoed in Hollywood halls, inspiring scripts and apologies alike, a reminder that legends don't fade, they flare. For the viewers, it was more than drama, a window into souls bared under Klieg lights, where egos clashed but humanity prevailed. In the end, the eruption wasn't destruction, but ignition, a spark that reignited passions, proving Nicholson's roar still commanded the stage, Behar's bite still drew blood, and The View remained the unyielding arena where stars collided and emerged, scarred but shining. As the sun set on that fateful taping, the industry whispered of sequels, but Jack, he teed off at dawn, shades on, grinning at the horizon eternal, Unbowed, forever the wild card. The aftermath rippled beyond the studio walls like shockwaves from a detonation, hitting social media with the force of a cultural earthquake that refused to settle. Within minutes of the live broadcast, Jack Erupts dominated every platform, clips dissected frame by frame on TikTok, where Gen Z creators slowed Jack's finger point to dramatic bass drops, captioning it when boomers finally clap back. On X, blue-check pundits split into camps, one side hailing Nicholson as the last honest man in Hollywood, the other branding him a privileged relic lashing out at accountability. Late-night hosts scrambled rewrite. Hessa Fallon opened with a skit of Jack storming off in a golf cart. Colbert superimposed Joy's face onto a punching bag labeled woke culture. Morning radio jocks replayed the chainsaw in a library line until it became a drop in every segment. Joy, ever the media maven, appeared on CNN that evening, her voice steady but eyes betraying the adrenaline crash. "Look, I push buttons, that's the gig." Jack pushed back harder than expected. Respect. She spun the clash into a masterclass on generational friction, positioning herself as the fearless truth-teller who drew blood from a lion. Jack, unreachable in Malibu, let his silence speak. His publicist issued a terse Mr. Nicholson enjoyed the spirited exchange that only fueled the fire. Paparazzi staked out his gate, drones buzzing overhead, but the compound stayed sealed, shades drawn, the legend inside presumably toasting the chaos with a cigar. ABC's switchboard lit up. Viewers split between demands for Joy's apology and calls for Jack's permanent co-host slot. Ratings soared 300%, the highest in a decade, proving controversy still minted gold. Whoopi, in a radio interview, laughed off mediation rumors. "I just kept the train on the tracks barely." Sunny posted an Instagram carousel, behind-the-scenes shots of the panel post-show, caption reading, "Sometimes lightning strikes the sage, grateful to witness history." Alyssa's Substack exploded with a 2,000-word essay titled Masculinity, Accountability, and the Art of the Meltdown, threading the needle between admiration and critique. Sarah, the quiet one, trended for a single tear caught on camera, mimed as when you realize you forgot to bring popcorn to the apocalypse. Producers huddled in emergency meetings, weighing replay edits against the raw feed's viral purity. They chose authenticity, scheduling an encore airing at 10 p.m. Advertisers clamored for spots, rates tripling overnight. The View's YouTube channel hit 50 million views in 24 hours. Comments: a war zone of emojis and manifestos. Jack's old co-stars Wade and Michael Keaton tweeted a bad emoji. Angelica Houston remained regal in silence. Scorsese, reached in Italy, chuckled to Variety, "That's Jack and never needed a script to steal the scene." Joyce Booker fielded offers from every network, her agent whispering seven-figure podcast deals. In living rooms nationwide, families paused dinners to rewatch, grandparents nodding at Jack's grit, teens screenshotting Joy's flushed defiance. The clash transcended entertainment. It became a Rorschach test for America's fault line as age, gender, power, truth. As midnight struck, Jack finally emerged on his balcony, glass raised to the moon, the Pacific roaring approval below.